But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Thursday morning, I'm joined by Malcolm and Gibbo. How are you, lads?
I'm good, right. I'm good.
Yeah, excellent, Steve. Thank you.
Good stuff. And we're opening today with the news that Wembley tickets announcement has been made. I've just been sent this. Period 1, season ticket holders with 25 plus loyalty points and have attended at least one Carabao Cup match during the 22-23 campaign. Tickets on sale from Monday, the 6th of February at 10 a.m. The ticket sales period for that closes 7th of February at 8 o'clock. Period 2 sees season ticket holders that have attended 4 home and at least one of the away Carabao Cup matches during the 22-23 campaign. And tickets are on sale from Tuesday, the 7th of February at 10 a.m. And ticket sales period closes Wednesday, the 8th of February at 8 a.m. for that. Period 3, yes, there's more. Season ticket holders that have attended 3 or 4 home Carabao Cup matches during the 2022-23 campaign. Tickets on sale from 8th of February at 10 a.m. and that closes at 9th of February at 8 a.m. And period 4, season ticket holders that have attended 1 or 2 home Carabao Cup matches during the 22-23 campaign. And the ballot opens Thursday, the 9th of February at 10 a.m. and the ballot closes Friday, the 10th of February at 8 a.m. Successful applicants notified by 5 p.m. on Valentine's Day. And period 5, season ticket holders that have not attended a Carabao Cup match during the 22-23 campaign. Ballot opens for them on Friday, the 10th of February at 10 a.m. and ballot closes Saturday, the 11th of February at 8 a.m. Successful applications notified by 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, the 14th of February. So that has come, from the supporters trust by the sounds of it, all very in depth, and there is more after that as well. Obviously, with regards to period 6, which is members that have attended at least one home Carabao Cup match. And then period 7 will be supporters with a previous purchase history that have attended at least one home Carabao Cup match during the 22-23 campaign. So all of that is quite in depth, and it'll be interesting to see whether that is something that is going to be laid out into the general public domain. But that seems to have come from somebody who was involved with the Supporters Trust. So, yeah, look, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to decide where tickets go. And if that is genuine and that is the real announcement, which is forthcoming, then some people will be happy, other people won't be so happy. But we'll wait and see what happens with that. John, go on, Malcolm.
I was going to say, what numbers of tickets is the club getting?
We don't know. I mean, our allocation's expected to be in the region of 32,000, I believe.
That's right. That's what I've heard in that. So,
and that's equal with Man United, I presume.
Well, we presume so. I don't know if it's on percentage of they get 70,000. I don't know, but I was told
the League Cup is different. Yeah, and
we would get 32,000, which considering we sell out 50,000 every week. Mm-hmm. How tough it's going to be.
A Manchester United fan has posted something very similar today. Not obviously the same as what I've just read out, but they have said on theirs that they are getting 32,000 tickets. This looks like it's an official letter from Manchester United to all season ticket holders saying that tickets will be priced at £40, 56, 72, 90 and 100, with a 50% discount for under 16s and over 65s and a 25% discount for young adults 17 to 21. And applications will be accepted from full season ticket holders who have purchased a ticket for all home cup games this season. So essentially, it looks as if we're probably going to get the same.
I thought the numbers might be higher. What you've read out there, Steve, 32%, and that's just over a third of the total.
Malcolm, on all cup finals, it's a disgrace in lots of ways. On all cup finals, so many tickets are held over for neutrals, for corporate, for
they've got to go to other clubs and what have you.
It's which seems
everybody
dreadful.
gets an allocation.
The whole occasion belongs to Newcastle United and Manchester United. Yes, there's other people as well, but I would have thought the two clubs playing in any final deserve better than that, especially when it's two of the best supported clubs in the land, which is what it is this time. But there we are. It is what it is. I'd rather have this problem than be sitting like Southampton and Nottingham Forest and biting on the end of the bedpost. So at least we're worried about getting there, etc., etc. But we are there, and that is absolutely terrific. Absolutely.
Let's focus on that, John. What did you make of the game?
Well, I made of the game that we ended up at Wembley, so that's all that mattered as far as I was concerned. I mean, it's wonderful that we've been there. I mean, the last major trophy was 54 years ago. The last that we won, and we haven't done so yet, I know, the last domestic one that we won was 68 years ago. We haven't been to a Wembley Cup final since 1999, which is the old Shearer team, when ironically we played Manchester United, who were on the way to doing a treble then. They won the league, the cup, and the Champions League that season. Good gracious me. So it's terrific. I thought we started off at a blistering pace, and we were going to blow them away. 1 up in 4 minutes, 2 up in 20-odd minutes. Both the Longstaff, God bless him, delighted for him. Local lad makes good. Local lad scores the 2 goals that put you to Wembley. He's never, ever, ever going to forget that. Their goal sort of was like taking a pin to a balloon, wasn't it? It pricked the balloon, and all of a sudden it was a different game from then on in. We went a bit flat. I guess, having started the way we did and then have Pope concede for the first time in 11 matches or whatever it was. It became a little bit of an anticlimax because we were still 3-1 up, which meant we were there because there was only half a match to play when we got to the interval. And it wasn't our greatest performance after that, but we'd won. We were comfortable. They were never, as long as it's possible, going to do anything about that. It was like last night, wasn't it? Nottingham Forest will get credit for staying in the game for about 70 minutes at 0-0 at Manchester United, but they were 3-0 down and they end up losing the tie 5-0. Good night, end of conversation. And we got there, which was magnificent. I mean, the start was unbelievable. Not only the way we started with 2 goals, but the crowd and the atmosphere and the scarf waving and the flags. It was a very, very special occasion. I mean, 2 Newcastle legends in Shea Given and David Ginola were on the touchline, and they had goosebumps at the sort of atmosphere it was. At the end of the game, when Newcastle United are celebrating, Shea Given's taking selfies on the pitch because he wanted to remember being on the pitch doing the television job while Newcastle went to Wembley, and he was taking selfies. I mean, that shows what it meant to everybody connected with Newcastle. It's been absolutely fabulous, thoroughly deserved by this ownership, this management, and these lot of players. And you know what? I was chuffed that it was Sean Longstaff that scored the goals, because so many outsiders have tried to say we are where we are, 3rd top Champions League in a cup final, because of money, because of new owners. It's as much because of players that were already there. Players like Almiron, players like Joe Linton, players like Shaw, players like Sean Longstaff. And we got to Wembley with the 2 goals scored by a kid who's not only a Geordie, but was already there. Not a big money import. And that was terrific, because this hasn't been about money. This has been about shrewd buying in the transfer market and lifting average players to unbelievable heights.
Yeah. Malcolm.
Did you see where Sean Longstaff started to score his goal.
What about talking to Shearer?
No. From where Sean Longstaff was on the pitch.
Oh, you mean where he ran from to get his
yes.
goals?
Yeah. And the ball went out of the Newcastle box and out to the left wing. Sean Longstaff, he was on the edge of the 6-yard box, and he just set off. And there were others way ahead of him. Willock was ahead of him, and a number of others, but he just kept running. And I thought it was absolutely remarkable. He could have eased up, say, at the halfway line and said, well, there's plenty forward. But he didn't. He just kept steaming on. And I thought it was absolutely brilliant in the end, the goal that he scored. If you took the whole thing from one end of the pitch to the other, and that kind of attitude, my word, it brings a wealth to the team. It really does. I thought that Sean Longstaff, it was lovely to see it all happen for him, but by heavens, I feel he deserved it. Really and truly deserved it.
I think maybe it's one of the things that made him run as much as that to get in the penalty area and finish, Malcolm, is that he'd phoned up Alan Shearer before the game to ask Alan about scoring goals, because he felt the one thing missing from his game was scoring goals. And he had a 25-minute conversation with Shearer, which was just a talking about goal scoring. And then he went out in the semi-final and scored twice. And Shearer would have said, you've got to get in the box. Most goals are scored from inside the penalty area. I know you scored from some bombers from outside, Malcolm. My Jove, you did. But most goals are scored from inside the penalty area. And I'm sure part of Shearer's advice would not be, don't be afraid to shoot, which is always your advice. But also get in the box and finish. And that's what he did twice. And I hope he gives Alan Shearer a ring before the final.
I'm sure he will. Absolutely. And it was advice that certainly didn't go wasted, I have to say. But yes, it just goes to show, because Willock was way ahead of Sean, but Sean, he just kept going, and of course, by the time he got there, the situation was almost that there was space waiting for him on the far post, and in he went and tucked it in. And I thought, that this is a lad who, let's not forget, he runs further in every single game he plays than anybody else in the Premier League. And so I thought he thoroughly deserved it all.
This is a guy who a year ago, Malcolm, his future looked to be almost certainly in the Championship with the transfer away from Newcastle. And he turned that round to be a regular in that midfield, and then to get the 2 goals that put you to Wembley. So
absolutely,
good for him.
And an irony to it all, I suppose, is that I think at one stage for a while, it was thought that Matty, his younger brother, had more of a chance of making it at Newcastle than Sean did. But I think, though, that Eddie Howe, he's absolutely stuck with Sean. He really has. He stuck by him right the way through. And I still hear people criticising Sean for a bad pass or giving the ball away. But what they've got to remember is that with him doing this huge yardage, he's getting more involved in the game than anybody else. He's always where the action is. So he will find that he gets more of the ball than anybody else, simply because of all that running that he does. And so the more ball you get, the more mistakes you make. It's those who sort of shy away and keep out the way. And they're the ones that don't get caught making mistakes.
With regards to the game itself, Callum Wilson's struggling to perform, John, isn't he?
Oh, frighteningly so. I mean, you can tend to gloss over this or perhaps not look at the situation because overall Newcastle aren't losing and they are third top in the League Cup final. So it's very easy to say what's wrong at Newcastle. Answer nothing. But quite frankly, as we go into this match on Saturday with West Ham, and we might have had the adulation and the wonderment and the excitement of the League Cup temporarily finished because we've made Wembley. We might have had the excitement and anticipation of the transfer window closed off because it's gone and be returning to the bread and butter, which is the Premier League. But this is so vital to us. But we return to play West Ham, needing, in my opinion, to win, no ifs and no buts, because with 3-0 draws, we've only taken 6 points out of the last 12 available. And that is not Champions League form. I'm not having a go at Newcastle. I'm just stating facts. You get spells like that in the season, but you've got to get out of them. And West Ham's got to, after 3-0 draws, we don't need another draw at home on Saturday to a team of West Ham's calibre. Sure. You've got to win. And the situation, to stick with the goal scoring, which is what you asked me, Steve, we will go into that match with our two top goal scorers, which are Miggy Almiron and Callum Wilson, on a completely dry spell. And the third front player will have come from the bench in the original games, because I'm expecting Joe Linton to drop back into midfield to replace Bruno, who's suspended on Saturday. So the third front man is going to be either San Maximum or Isaac or Gordon or even Murphy, but it's going to be somebody new. So we're going to have three forwards that aren't goal scoring at the moment. And when we look at Wilson, he has not scored since October the 29th, which is an incredible time, as Malcolm would tell you, for a centre forward. And Almiron has not scored in his last 6.5 matches. His half match was the cup tie, FA Cup tie at Sheffield Wednesday, when he went on to begin the second half. So he's gone 6.5 matches. Isn't looking like he's still busy, but isn't looking like the goal scorer he was when he got 9 in that first half of the season. And Wilson, as you said, Steve, is looking rusty. He's looking lethargic. He's not looking like the sharp, pacey striker that was running in behind defenders and causing chaos. Where is he? And the ball sticking like a magnet when it went up to him. None of that's happening now, and he's not looking like goals. And we've only got 3 matches before Wembley to change that situation up front and get Wilson and Almiron back as goal scorers. But also, boys, it's not just a matter, like it would be if we're a mid-table team, of getting our goal scorers right in the next 3 matches for Wembley. It's an immediate problem. These 3 matches matter because we're trying to get in the Champions League. We have got to win if we can, at home to West Ham, away to Bournemouth, and at home to Liverpool. We've got to win. Those 9 points are absolutely crucial. And to do that, we've got to score goals. And yes, other people can weigh in, like Longstaff's just done, and et cetera. But you need your centre forward scoring. And at the moment, Callum Wilson is not just not scoring, he's not looking like it, is he?
No, he's not. No, he's not getting on the end of stuff, is he, at all? He's not threatening. It's quite concerning for somebody who's a regular goal scorer to have such a lean spell. It's a long, long time to go. It used to happen to me once a year, but it was called the summer.
Yes.
Joking apart though, it's quite serious. And with the loss of Bruno for 3 games, something new has got to be tried, I think, and I just feel that bring Isak on, let him start, and play him just off of Callum Wilson, and so that we're almost playing a 2 up front, and that I think that change would absolutely spark Callum Wilson back into life.
Steve is a fan, and a loyal fan, a regular fan for an awful long time, and we are forced into a change up front anyway if we all accept that Joe Linton goes back into midfield to replace Bruno, and I'm not certain what else Eddie Howe can do apart from Elliot Anderson, and I don't think he'll do that. Start him, I mean, on Saturday. He might eventually do that, but perhaps not Saturday. So who would you make the third new man up front for West Ham, Steve?
It's so difficult. I mean, is Isak going to be available, John?
Because... Yes, I'm told that the concussion wasn't concussion. It was a knock on the head, but he's now saying he's perfectly all right. So if we accept that is so, your choice, I guess, is it's either San Maximum, Isak, Gordon starting, or Murphy. We've got
a whole host of things here, because prior to the semi-final, I said to Malcolm that I felt that if Wilson didn't score on Tuesday night, that Howe should look at bringing Isak in. I genuinely felt that Isak should come in. Obviously, Bruno's suspension creates this whole new issue. I think you're right. I think Joe Linton will drop into the midfield. I don't think he'll upset the apple cart with Wilson. I think he'll allow him to start again. I think there'll be concerns still over Isak, despite him saying he's fine. They'll probably keep him on the bench again. I think ASM will come in. I think it'll be ASM given the opportunity, because
that would be the automatic one. Is it just me or forget what's his end product, which is true, how many goals, how many assists. Putting that to a side for one moment, I don't feel he's the bubbly person that he was. I mean, I know, for example, for a fact that Spurs have been into his ear about the possibility of him going, not particularly this window, but in the summer, to Tottenham. You keep getting Arsenal mentioned. You keep getting Milan mentioned. If somebody's in your ear and you're not playing, when was his last start? Goodness gracious, it must be an eternity ago. And you're not playing regularly at Newcastle, and you've been king number 1 in the past. It doesn't look, I know you didn't feel that quite, Steve, but it doesn't look in himself a happy bunny. Now, I know the obvious answer to that is if you're not starting, you won't be a happy bunny. But it doesn't necessarily show in your body language. I feel, I look at Wilson and he doesn't look a happy bunny. I don't mean that there's any problems in the dressing room. I just mean within yourself. And, St. Maximum, I look at, and he doesn't look quite the bubbly guy he was. I mean, I quite agree. He could well start, and he must be favourite to start. The favourite doesn't always win the race, of course, but he must be favourite to start on Saturday. But it doesn't look a happy bunny. And we'll see, because I think we all agree that the match is probably a bit too quick for Gordon to start. I don't think we would be talking about Gordon starting at all, apart from the fact that Bruno has got suspended and Joe Linton's moved back. So there's a position that's got to be filled out there. That position will eventually be filled by Gordon further down the line after he's back up to speed, etc., etc. He hasn't played a lot at Everton, so he needs to get back up to speed. And he will probably be introduced at some time against West Ham from the bench. But it's going to be interesting, that situation, because Eddie Howe would have just gone same again, with one same again, because he's very loyal and he's proved that time and time again that, we'll go with the same team. But of course, he can't go with the same team on Saturday now, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, what do you think, Malcolm? What do you expect to see at the weekend with the West Ham visit?
Yeah, I've run out of patience with St Maximin. I really have. He doesn't make goals, he doesn't score them, and he has so much of the ball, and yet he doesn't bring other players into the game. He's a delight when you're playing against a side. He's a delight to be in the opposition because he has so much of the ball, and actually it just keeps running around, taking people on, but he doesn't look to hurt the opposition. And so you want to play against those players all day long. And so I've run out of patience with him, and I think that we need more firepower. So Maximin isn't firepower at all, and so I would play Isak and just slightly change it up front, so that because Callum Wilson is comfortable playing with his back to goal. Isak wants to be facing goal all the while, and I think that they can work really well together on that, and it would be quite fascinating to see how they actually can put a partnership together. And I don't think that would, because Isak he's quite happy to drop off, and so he would. And I like what John said with if Joe Linton, if he drops off to fill in for Gutierrez. For Bruno. That what you'll find is that Isak will drop off when the opposition has got the ball. He'll drop off into that Joe Linton original position, and I think it would all work very well. It needs some work on the training field, for heaven's sake, but professionals, they know what they're up to. And a bit of work on the training ground, and they'll have it organised for Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see Isak start in that left-handed position as Malcolm would. I suspect we'll see St Maximin start, because I think Eddie Howe will go down that route. He's waited all this time. Let him start. Let's see what he can do. And if he doesn't do it, well, it's his fault. And if he does do it, that's great. We benefit. But I would like to see Isak. I think it'll be St Maximin. But it's going to be fascinating. And I'm certain we'll probably see Gordon at some time in the second half come on and get 20 minutes for the atmosphere, etc.
As long as the score's right at the time.
Oh, sure. I mean, well, I guess in any way you can make it right, Malcolm. You can bring him on because we're coasting at 2-0 and you can get the atmosphere. Or you can bring him on because it's 1-1 or we're 1 down, we need a goal and he's a fresh face and give us all a lift. So you can justify it. As a manager, Malcolm, you've been there, done that.
Absolutely,
you can justify it any way you want.
The time not to do it, though, is when you're 1-0 up and hanging on by the skin of your teeth, and you're getting absolutely pelted by the opposition who are looking for the equaliser. That's the time you don't make loose changes.
Yeah. Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. Big shout out to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can contact them at info@mrvickies.co.uk or by calling 01768 210 102. Big thanks to Blowhole Brewery, a new beer company set up, brewed on the River Tyne, blowholebrewery.co.uk. And thanks to United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays, based in Morpeth. Contact them on 01670 362 460 or 07957 141 654. Graham, your driver, Beverly answering your calls and looking after you on your tour. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wales and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. Thanks to Media Arts for all the video content. If you want to subscribe to the channel, then hit the subscribe button underneath this video on the right-hand side. Click the thumb up to like the video and click share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. We also support the food bank on this channel. Click nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a virtual donation today. We've got a few events coming up over the next couple of weeks and months. Friday the 24th of February, Tyneside Irish Centre, an evening with Steve Howie. Tickets are available from nufcmatters.com at the reduced price of £15. An evening with Nobby Solano, entry only, £15. Entry with a signed print, £20. Book your tickets for that for the 25th of March at the Tyneside Irish Centre from nufcmatters.com. And an evening with Frank Clark, Thursday the 20th of April at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £15 for that as well. Book at nufcmatters.com. The Flash Gordon t-shirts are now available on the website, priced $19.99. Go to nufcmatters.com. And if you want to get a free car sticker, then email John at nufcmatters.com and he will post you one out. I'm just laughing. I recorded that advert thing after the match. You can tell my voice is gone.
You can't. You've been drinking out of a damp glass there, I think.
You definitely have. I had a couple of damp glasses on Tuesday night after Malcolm was gone, believe you me. John, the transfer window saw some ins and outs. We've already talked about Anthony Gordon. I'm sure he will settle in well on the Tyneside. Obviously, we signed the young right back as well. But I tell you what I've never seen before, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, a player getting sold, coming onto the pitch to say goodbye. Other than Kevin Keegan in a testimonial game, I'm struggling to remember a player given the option of coming onto the pitch and waving goodbye and doing a walk around.
Absolutely. And he came all the way back from Nottingham.
On the day,
having done his transfer down there, he come all the way back from Nottingham to say his goodbye. But Eddie, who was so loyal to the whole squad and everything, haven't you found a couple of things about that night were surprising? It was hardly surprising the two boys went on before the game, and that was wonderful. But John Joe going on the pitch with his family at half time, never seen that before. And also what went under the radar is Carl Darlow signed for Hull City about 6 days ago. Newcastle signed the papers, Caldaro signed the papers, Hull City signed the papers, and then they were all held up so that he could sit on the subs bench at Southampton and then again at home. And the match finished all over roughly about 10. The transfer deadline closed at 11. In Hull City, sent the paperwork over between 10 and 11, because if they'd sent it over before that, we would have fielded, albeit on the bench, an illegal player because he would have been with Hull instead of with us.
Yes.
But isn't it amazing that they wanted him to be on the bench for those two games? I think it was to make him feel part of the run to Wembley, because
are you sure, John? Because Dubravka, he's cup tied.
Yeah, but we're gonna go in the final without Dubravka and without Darlow, because we're going to have the
right now. Is Carrius cup tied?
No. Carrius will be on the bench.
Carrius has got a new deal so that he can sit on the bench at Wembley, and he will be our cover goalkeeper on the bench. I
find that rather strange.
That's why he got the deal. That's the only reason why he got the deal.
If that's
so, why couldn't he sit on the bench for the semi-final?
Precisely. And why did they go to all those lengths over Darlow to delay that transfer when Karius is there saying, well, what the hell's wrong with me?
Mind, he'll be happy to be on the bench at Wembley and get a medal, never having taken part in the competition until that day at all, and he will get a medal. But interesting, I think it's all part of this togetherness thing with Eddie, whereby if you've been loyal to Newcastle, he will see you off with wonderful quotes about saying how he didn't want you to go and all this sort of thing and what a great servant you've been. And he means them. I'm not meaning he's being hypocritical. But he wanted to give John Joe, after 7 years up here, a platform to say goodbye and thank you very much, so he'll go away with a warm feeling, because naturally the crowd aren't going to heckle you. They're going to give you a thank you very much. And Darlow was part of that. He was in the photographs in the dressing room afterwards, you know, because we did do the usual winning photograph. We didn't do it at Southampton because it was only half time, but we did it after the game here. And there's Darlow, etc., etc. So it was his sort of goodbye. And no doubt he's got a promise that he will get a medal, because Newcastle will get 31 medals. And no doubt, I think Darlow will get a medal and Chris Wood will get a medal, because they both played in the very first game at Tranmere. Dubravka, by the way, will get a medal off Manchester United. Only thing to be decided is whether it's a winners or a losers, and that'll be decided by Newcastle United. What a quirky bit of fate that is. What's that all about?
But
and I want to know who Martin Dubravka will be supporting on the 26th at Wembley. Will he be supporting Newcastle because he's been here all the time? Or will he be supporting Manchester United so his medal turns to gold instead of silver? That's what I want to know.
Who will Steve Bruce be supporting?
It doesn't matter. Luckily, he can't have an influence on the day.
Whoever is prepared to pay him the most money.
It's two of his old clubs. I suspect he might be supporting Manchester United.
Yeah, me too. He was there. He was there last night at Manchester United. He wasn't at St James's Park, I don't think.
I don't think he was.
For the semi-final. So I think that sums him up perfectly. When Man United get beaten in the final, Dubravka will qualify for a loser's medal, says Chris. And Andy says, one of my favourite tunes is Primal Scream Come Together. It'd be good to get that played at matches. Yeah, there was quite a sing-song afterwards as well. Newcastle's DJ Rob Byron hammering out the tunes, and Shaq as well, pre-match, doing a little bit at the pitch side. It's certainly culminated in a wonderful atmosphere, John. And again, you've commented for many, many years, reported on Newcastle games for many, many years. You've been there through the highs and lows. You've seen Newcastle win a trophy. How did that compare on the decibel levels?
I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. I was sitting next to Malcolm in the press box, and I turned to Malcolm before the kickoff, and I said, "Just look round to this ground, big man. Look at the flags, the scarves being waved in the air, the atmosphere." And I said, "And then look up there." And we looked up at Southampton, who had taken the full capacity. They were sitting in absolute silence. Obviously, they hadn't their own scarves in the air or anything. They were just stunned by what they were saying, and no doubt thinking to themselves, how on earth, a goal down, do we overcome this crowd in this team when we kick off in 5 minutes' time? Answer, 4 minutes later, Longstaff scores and you don't overcome it, because effectively that was the match finished. It was the most one. I've followed Newcastle officially for the Chronicle since 1966. I have watched Newcastle from being a schoolboy and watched them through 3 FA Cup final wins in 5 years at the beginning of the 50s. And I have never seen an atmosphere like we continuously have now, with all the flags, with all the adulation, with us being released from the hell of the Ashley decade and a half. It's all come bubbling over to produce what only Geordies can produce. And war flags must not be forgotten in this, because they've helped so much to create that atmosphere with the flags and getting them onto the terraces, and the new owners agreeing to that sort of thing happening. You could never imagine that happening in Ashley's time, could you? And it is one of the unique stadiums in the whole of world football now. I honestly believe that. And people like Henry Winter, who's a very good friend of mine, I travelled all over the world with him at World Cup finals for 20 odd, 30 odd years, just come across and said, Gibbo, this place is just a different class, and the supporters are just a different class. And the atmosphere is absolutely wonderful. And as Malcolm turned around and said to me, if you don't want to play for them, then you've got no blood in your veins, because, you know, the atmosphere, you must be as small as Kieran Trippier and think you're 10 foot tall. I mean, little Kieran Trippier must think he's 10 foot tall, because playing in front of them, Skipper and Newcastle United in front of them, and having the adulation they give him, wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and does my old heart the world of good. And I tell you what, we don't know who's going to win at Wembley. Yes, we do. It's going to be Newcastle. But we know who's going to win on the terraces. Newcastle United fans. The prawn sandwich brigade don't have a chance against us on the terraces. Let's hope it's the same on the pitch.
Malcolm, you've played in front of the supporters. I mean, you often tell that that story about your debut at home, when Newcastle fans suddenly started singing your name to the tune of a famous musical. But from your perspective, again, just as an observer, how special is the atmosphere at St James's Park at this moment in time, with the takeover, with Eddie Howe's team playing so well, and now with the Wembley Cup final?
Well, it really lifts players, and I think you could see that. The way that Newcastle got off to such a really brisk early start, got a goal in the 4th minute, and this is all relayed to the atmosphere that's being created. Whilst Newcastle are in the dressing room, when they come down the tunnel, when they come out, and then it just explodes in your ear, and then you have the kickoff and the noise that brings, and then just a few minutes later a goal goes in, and the whole stadium was absolutely rocking throughout all of that, and it's and I really do feel that, and war flags certainly help in this, because it sort of it really gets people involving themselves in the whole thing. There's nobody sitting there quietly anymore, and it's absolutely marvelous. The thing that surprised me, and it really did surprise me. So Newcastle, they've got a goal up, then they've gone 2-0 up, thanks to young Sean, and that's 3-0 up on aggregate. And then they started to lose it. They didn't seem to me as if there was that confidence that they had in the opening 20 minutes. And I thought, oh, come on now, let's get this going. And Southampton somewhat took over the game to a degree. And and it continued into the second half. And I was really surprised at that. That Newcastle were in this situation of being 3-0 up. Get the ball and just knock it about, for heaven's sake. And instead, it was Southampton who were turning the tables and doing it to Newcastle. And I just happen to think that it's that a video of that game, it goes to Old Trafford, and the manager says, right, I want you to watch that 90 minutes of Newcastle. That wouldn't bother Manchester United much at all, I don't think. It really wouldn't. And I was disappointed in that. There's experienced players out there with Newcastle, and they weren't saying, hey, come on, let's get organised, let's just get knocking the ball around. And they seem to be almost running scared, and I don't know why. They got all nervy, and yet they were actually 3 goals up.
Yeah, I think we should send the video down to Manchester United, let them look at it and let them get complacent and then roger them completely for an hour and a half on the day at Wembley. Come
Yeah.
on, that'll do for me.
I
That's
see what you're
let's
saying,
do it.
John. Yes, I do understand, but you don't want to look for ways to fill Man United with confidence, for heaven's sake. You want them going out there a bit scared. And the performance down at Southampton, that would scare Man United. The performance in the last hour and 10 minutes at St James Park wouldn't frighten anybody.
No, definitely not. Newcastle didn't play, to the highest standards. I don't think they have played this as well since the World Cup break. I've got to be perfectly honest, but they're getting results. They've got to a cup final, and that's the trick when you're a big team, is winning games, John. When you're not playing well.
There's no doubt about that, because you cannot play Brazil. The greatest side I ever saw was 1970, Brazil side, led by Pele, that won the World Cup in Mexico.
Jairzinho.
Even then, you cannot play to your full capacity game after game after game after game after game after game after game. It doesn't happen that way. Sometimes I'm not meaning this happened on Tuesday, but sometimes you've got to bite the bullet and fight your way through a game and say, it's not our day, we're not flowing, etc., but we're going to get there. The bottom line of good teams is when they can put their record for the season up in front of your face and say, that's what we're all about. And our record shows 1 defeat in 20 Premier League games, third top of the table, and in the final of the League Cup. And that'll do for me, because a year ago we were third bottom, not in any cup finals, and heading the other way to the way we're heading now. So I'm just happy for what we are. Yes, we'll always find something we want to improve, like the performances Malcolm says in the second half on Tuesday night, like getting Almiron and Wilson back to scoring goals. But you know what? I mean, if at the end of the game at Wembley, we've won 2-1 and Almiron and Wilson haven't scored, I'll still be happy, because I'll be bringing that cup back to Geordieland, and every time I need a little bit of inspiration, going down the ground and having a little look at it. So results are the first thing that's important, performances second, etc. But results, this is a results game, and results are all important. And this season, results are going well, undisputable.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Of course, Newcastle take on West Ham this coming weekend, Saturday, 5:30 start. Once again, the match is live on Sky, and once again, it's a total sellout. The postponement of our visit to the London Stadium in September, of course, means that West Ham are the only team that we've not faced in the Premier League this season. Team news, well, it's a little early for that, but we know that Anthony Gordon's in line for a debut. Harrison Ashby may be involved against his former club as well. Matt Targett and Javier Manquillo are both sidelined, and Bruno begins his 3-match suspension. Supermac will be at the Dog and Parrot around about 3:30, getting back around about 8 o'clock. And Gibbo, I believe you've got John Anderson down at Pumphrey's around about the same time.
Yeah, that's right.
Good stuff down at Pumphrey's as well. So West Ham, early team news. Well, Cornet, Zuma, Scamacca and Ings are all out. Michail Antonio will be leading the forward line, we would imagine, for West Ham. He didn't manage to secure a move out of West Ham in the January window. On Monday, West Ham won 2-0 at Derby County in the 4th round of the FA Cup. On the road this season, well, they've just won 5 Premier League points out of a possible 30, thanks to a victory at Aston Villa and draws at Southampton and Leeds. The 6 goals, actually, that the net in those 10 games is level with Wolves and Everton, with only Forest registering less with a measly 3. 2 of West Ham's 6 came from the penalty spot. Referee at the weekend is going to be Peter Banks. which is his second Newcastle United fixture of the season. He was in charge in the 1-1 draw at Wolves back in August. And on VAR is Neil Swarbrick. For those of you travelling up to Newcastle on the train, engineering works as usual between York and Newcastle. Means that rail replacement bus services will operate, serving intermediate stations, and a reduced service will still run from Newcastle to King's Cross, but via the Durham coast route, adding to journey time. So make sure you take that into consideration. Thanks to NUFC.com for all of that info. So, John, West Ham in town, back to Premier League action. You often wonder as well with a cup final on the horizon, and this one isn't too far away, only 3 weeks away. Does that play in players' minds a little bit as well? They don't want to miss a cup final.
I think it will have done in the past. I don't think it will do under Eddie Howe and under the current bunch of players we've got. I think it only comes in their mind when it's too late, if they're already injured or they're already suspended or whatever. It's going to be interesting because we will miss Bruno. Of that, there is absolutely no question, because the heartbeat of the team is in midfield. It's got to be linking back to front, and he is very much that. West Ham, it's been staggering what's happened to them, because last season they finished 7th top. They were in the Europa League semi-finals, and they're now in a relegation fight. And they bought in the summer quite extensively. They bought, for example, 3 centre forwards, all of whom are injured at the moment and out of the side, and then a huge relegation fight. Moyes desperately needs points. The only thing that's good news from their point of view, Antonio seems to have got his head unscrambled. He was a bit carried away by he might get a transfer in the window. That's gone, and he scored in the cup as a consequence. Jared Bowen has got himself back on the goal sheet and got rid of the disappointment of not going to World Cup. They've got Declan Rice, who's in his last hurrah at West Ham before he gets a Champions League club in the summer. It is going to be difficult, particularly difficult without Bruno, particularly difficult because we've got to find regular goal scorers again, and I'm just praying that Almiron and Wilson will find the inspiration in this game. I'm taking us to win. Pope haven't lost his record of successive clean sheets, and I know he's still got his Premier League record to go, but I've just got a feeling they might score, but we'll win 2-1, and if it's another 2-1, the same as in midweek, which is what the second leg was, I'll accept that. But I think Newcastle will win, but I think it'll be difficult because Bruno's not there, and we need goals. I think it'll be a matter of getting your shoulder to the wheel and getting through the hour and a half and getting the points. Because as I said, 6 points out of the last 12 is not Champions League form. We need 3 in this game. Absolutely no doubt. A draw would be a poor result. Not as bad as a defeat, but would be a poor result. I'm taking Newcastle to win by a single goal.
Okay, Malcolm, it is a big game. Newcastle, of course, want to keep the momentum in the league now that they've secured a place in the cup final. How do you see it going?
Well, I think that Eddie Howe will be putting the emphasis on people getting forward and scoring goals. And the defence talks for itself. They've got the most incredible record this season. That it's the best goals against record in the country, and they look absolutely supreme. And so all the efforts have got to be put in with regards to sticking the ball in the net. And I'd be working long hours with both Callum Wilson and with Almiron, but also I think that Isak, he has looked coming on. He's looked absolutely terrific, big, strong, very pacey. I think there's a quickness that we haven't fully seen yet to him. And he gets into the area and he scores goals. And I'll be working there. Anthony Gordon, he'll be wanting to show everybody what he's capable of as well, albeit his stats aren't that good. So I'm looking for him to prove himself more than his stats suggest. And also, it's great that Sean Longstaff got forward as he did, and the midfield. There was a lot of bodies getting into the Southampton boxes, all to be worked on, I think, so that the finishing becomes more finite than it is at the moment. Against West Ham, they've got one really serious player, I suppose, in Declan Rice, but otherwise it's been an almighty fall, considering that they were in Europe and have just suddenly lost all form over a summer, and have started this season dreadfully and have kept that awful form going. I would hope to see more goals than John suggests. So I'm gonna go for 3-0.
That'll do for me, big man.
Aye, interesting. Well, I tell you what else is interesting. Tomorrow, Malcolm, believe it or not, is actually our third birthday. NUFC Matters third birthday. And the first show, I've just stuck it in the chat there for people to sit and watch. I loaded it. I found it the other day. The first show was actually a prototype. Me and Malcolm sitting at a laptop in the office. Malcolm, do you remember that?
I do indeed, yes.
And it was 2019 when the show started. So yes, I mean, and we didn't continue it. We did it as a little bit of a prototype to see what it was like. But I've also found a few of the ones which we did in my kitchen, gentlemen. So I'm going to load them as well over the next few weeks.
That's
I
right.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Happy birthday to you and happy birthday to us.
yes, exactly. Well, and we need 3 points at the weekend to celebrate. So I'm going to go for a convincing 2-0 win. I think Newcastle will win, and I think it'll be a 2-0 win at the weekend. So that'd be great. But lads, great as always to share an hour with you. Look forward to seeing you again next week, and obviously I'll see you at the weekend for the match, Malcolm. Take care, guys.
Certainly will. Yes. And,
Take care. Keep the faith, boys. Keep the faith.
Let's go and give the hammers a hammering, eh?